Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about life balance. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have to think about the balance in our lives. So, luckily, here I have Rhonda, who's going to help us think about this in another light. So, thank you so much, Rhonda, for coming onto my show and sharing your time and perspective. Let's go ahead and dive right in. When you hear the words life balance, what does that make you think about?
It makes me realize the importance of redefining myself because life balance is all about reflection and where are we now and where do we need to spend more of our time at. So many a times we might think, for instance, that we are completely balanced. We work out, we watch our finances, we have goals for our careers. And then you realize, wait a minute, but I'm not happy. I'm more like a robot.
Exactly.
And so then you end up saying, okay, well, what changes do I need to make to rediscover my sense of identity?
Mm,
And so when you do that, you're looking at yourself in a different light, and it may take a few days to ponder it. I started my pursuit of life balance in my 20s, and it was I would take the time out to take a road trip to the West Coast because I live in the Midwestern state of Indiana, and I'd go gather up all the help books that could get, and I'd sit there and I would say, okay, well, what brings me happiness? And then I would do the next one. Well, what career do I want to do? And so I realized that we all have to go through a practice of redefining our sense of identity for every season of our lives because our lives change every single day and life hits and therefore you become unbalanced and then you have to redefine yourself.
exactly. I'm glad that you brought that up, how we're constantly in like a season of change and we have to recognize what season we are in at that moment. And if it's that time to change, then change. And even like embrace it. That's the word I'm looking for. Embrace it because we can't stay in the same routine because like you said earlier, you turn into a robot. You get stagnant. It's like, where am I going? What am I doing? What's the point? You start asking all of these questions. And I think once you start asking these questions, like, what's the point? How long do I have to do this for? When will it ever end? Will end when you decide it will end. And I think once we as as individuals to recognize that we have the power of choice of what we're going to do with our day to day, then that makes a ripple effect. And I'm glad you said it takes a couple of days to start implementing that change because nothing's going to happen in a day. Just because you got the idea doesn't mean it's automatically going to change your life that same moment forever or never. No, you have to remind yourself. You have to implement it. You have to do it daily and act on it daily to really start the change. And I'm so glad you also talked about how you started this journey back in your 20s to find this balance. But what was that real marker for you that you realized like something's not right?
Well, the when I originally started doing life balance work on myself, I did it because I wanted to be inspired and to be my most excellence because that's where
Okay.
you are in your 20s, right?
Yeah.
You really want to strive to be the best version of you. But then as that time passed, you go to 3 years, 5 years from the last time you did your reflection. And then it was
Yeah.
like my 30s. And at that point, I felt like I was stuck in a rut and I
Mm.
needed to rejuvenate myself because I'd been in the same position in my job and my life for a while. And so then I had to redo it again. And then when I got into my 40s, I started experiencing loss and life hitting. And then it was like, oh, this grief and the is like a shedding of an onion of the layers of yourself. And I had to redefine who are you when once you've accomplished those things that you thought were your goals to making yourself happy again. And so it's like
Mhm.
each season I found another version of what life balance meant. Perfect examples the COVID pandemic. We all had to change our whole lives and go home. and work
Yeah.
from home. And, I had already been working from home. So it was like, okay, that was a double whammy. Now you're not going out to dinner. You're not doing other things that you enjoy out. And I felt like, okay, you're still balanced, but you're not getting fulfillment. And so then I'm like, okay, what can you do to add in the social components and the, other aspects of your life, your intra and interpersonal skills back into your life? And I realized I had to sit back down, and I realized all the things that I enjoyed the most were not, wasn't doing. So for instance, I may have sat down and watched television too much. Yes, I like a good show, but I was maybe spending, 20 hours a day, a week watching
Yeah.
television, and instead of reading, intellectual growth, puzzles,
Yeah.
wildlife. You don't have, you could be around wildlife even during a pandemic, so you can hike. There's things that you can still do. And I found out that,
Yeah.
okay, wait a minute, I need to add the enjoyment back. And even if it's
Mm.
cleaning the windows, you say, how could you get joy in cleaning the windows in your home? Well, seeing the beauty afterwards is very fulfilling.
Absolutely. That's how I feel when I clean my house. Like
Mm.
my husband sometimes like, why do you keep on cleaning up after the boys? They're gonna just make a mess. Just wait till the end of the day. And I'm like, no, in my mind, I'm refreshed every time I do it. In my mind, it gives me a sense of joy knowing that I did it because makes me feel good just to have it clean. So if they're gonna mess up again, that's their choice. They're playing. Of course they're gonna mess it up. But in my mind, it's clean enough for them to find everything. It's clean enough for them to really go out and be imaginative and be creative as much as they can. So I absolutely understand that. And I think that's so beautiful how you talked about fulfillment and just finding that enjoyment and just stepping away from that roboticness that we tend to just lean on just so that we can numb the pain of trauma, of reality, of just not whatever you want to fill in the blank. You know what I mean? Let's be honest, every individual is going to have something in their vocabulary or in their life to give them an excuse of not stepping into that fulfillment, of feeling that joy, of feeling the wholeness of what they really are and who they should actually be instead of what they are conforming themselves to be or settling because they want society to accept them or they want labels to approve them. But it's like, no, why can't you just be you without the labels or even with the labels? What does it matter? It doesn't make you less or more of a person. You are you no matter what you do or what you don't do. And I think when you start recognizing that, you start to have more balance where you're like, I don't need to eat that much food or I don't need to watch that much TV, like you were talking about earlier. I can actually put 20 minutes into reading this novel that I've been sitting on my bookcase. You know what I mean? Things of that nature. So it's nice that you found
Right.
that. So, how are the techniques for you that you lean on? Like, or what are the techniques that you lean on to stay balanced?
Well, the first one is putting practices in daily from all the 13 dimensions of our lives. So many times we focus only on what we would consider like the major contributors, like, our work, maybe, our, which includes our career development, our finances, maybe even family, and we forget ourselves. That we don't spend time on what about our spiritual connection. And I'm not just talking about the religious aspect of spiritual. I'm talking about the nurturing of one's soul. That is what religion
Hmm.
is about, is making your soul whole through your religious practices, right? So, what about our emotional well-being? Are we focusing on making sure we're being mindful that stress, daily chores, life has an emotional impact on us? And what
Absolutely.
are we doing to go back and feed back into our emotions? Because if we don't look at the 13 dimensions of our main lives, then when life does hit, you don't have any reservoir to draw upon when there is a sickness, an illness, a family member's
Yeah.
death, a fur baby that needs a veterinarian, whatever it may be that we have passion for and
Yeah.
genuinely care about. When we don't have those reservoirs already there because we've nurtured all aspects of our, for instance, even our physical health. Many a times we think physical health is about weight loss. And I was one of those people that bought into it at a very young age, that everything is about making sure you're on a diet. Well,
Absolutely.
physical health is not about necessarily dieting. It's not
Exactly.
about how many. Yes, you have to monitor your carbs. I'm diabetic, so I really have to dive into that aspect of our health. But what about, are we getting the number of steps? Are we standing enough when we're on our computer? Because there are very easy guidelines for us to meet basic needs of our body physically,
Absolutely.
like the number of hours
Absolutely.
we stand, the number of steps we walk, how many glasses of water do we drink, do we
Yeah.
schedule them in. And see, many of us, oh, I don't like water. Well, it's not about what you like.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about the refreshing of your body. So let's cheers to getting that physical health in.
Right, exactly. I'll take my
Have
water. I'm
a
pretty
sip of water,
parched.
have a sip of water, and make sure you're getting it in daily. It's not it's not rocket science to be able to physically love on yourself, or emotionally make sure that we're spending mindful training. Or what about your integrity? How many times
Absolutely.
do we maybe break the bubble for
Mhm.
for a friend or a loved one, and then we sit there and think, oh my goodness, but I don't really believe in that. If you don't know what your
Exactly.
credo is for your integrity and your both personally and professionally, you're going to fall into traps.
Absolutely. And it's kind of more of like a self-sabotage as well, because you know better, but yet you choose to do better. And if you don't know better, then you're doing yourself a disservice for not going out and looking for the information, listening for information. There's people like ourselves who go on these podcasts, who talk to people who are just trying to let people know that this is an option. You don't have to conform to what you're used to. You are not bounded by what you've seen by your family, by tradition, by whatever the case you want to fill in the blank. You are not bounded by it. If you want to take care of yourself and you don't know how, start with the baby steps, start with the small steps. And it's going to get you excited once you get there, where it's like, okay, I could do the next steps. I could do the next steps. Where before you know it, you are having a whole morning routine, night routine, midday routine, and you're part of those people that are so self-disciplined because they realize the reward of self-discipline comes with integrity, accountability, being honorable, knowing who you are as an individual, because you need to have those boundaries. Every human being needs to have those boundaries because it protects ourselves. And it's a sad, it's a bittersweet situation if you think about it, because people are they'll so hold on to their trauma where they won't allow themselves to move forward. For instance, like people eat their emotions because they found comfort in food instead of just facing the reality, or trying to find help. So they sabotage themselves by eating and eating and eating. And but it's only destroying their body. But it's like you said earlier, it's not about the food, it's not about that, it's about your mind. What are you telling your mind? You're telling your mind that food will make you feel good, but what about you making yourself feel good? You can't make yourself feel good. You know
It's
what I mean? Like, you have to start thinking about that in these type of ways. So I'm glad you brought that up. So what do you think is, I know we kind of talked about it, but what do you think is the best way for people to start realizing and taking hold of this initiative to start this life balance?
I think for me, I have to sit down not only and just reflect on it, but I have to write it down
Write it
and
down. Mm.
so when I start that period of redefining and looking at my life balance, I sit down and say, okay, what are all the things I really enjoy doing? What are the things that I would like to really do? And then I sit down and I say, what am I really doing? And I take it like a diary of a week, activities. And I can guarantee you, most everybody that does it is going to find out the things that they enjoy or they long to do the most, they're not doing. Most of the
Absolutely,
time
they're
I
not.
find that a lot of the times I haven't done it for months. Some of the things, whether it be a puzzle or maybe that I need to do something for travel or whatever it may be that I really personally have a desire for at that moment in that season of my life. I may have it in my mindset that I want to do it, but I'm not working and practicing it. So like one season, this last season, I found out I wasn't enjoying my home as much as I should. So the home
Hmm,
environment was
okay.
a big part. So I started putting, like you said, into practice. Every morning I open up my blinds, I look out the blinds, see what's out there. Is there wildlife that I can enjoy? Is there a stick that's fallen out of the tree that's speared the yard that needs to be pulled out? Is there, what is it that I can enjoy about my home at that point
Yes,
early early in the morning? Sometimes we race through our morning routines and we don't even spend time in our bedrooms, for instance. So I try to
absolutely.
make the bed and enjoy that few minutes that I'm turning on and off the television and getting everything in order and just enjoying that moment. And so I found that by putting steps in my day that helps me nurture each aspect of my life and my personality and my identity, that I can
Yeah,
transition with grace and authenticity to the world. And I'm
yes,
being me because I
absolutely.
found that I wasn't being me. I wasn't being me. I'm a very dramatic kind of personality, but quiet. So, I was conforming to what I thought other people thought women should be. The more
Absolutely. Oh, I
soft,
love
the
that.
more submissive individual. Guess what? That's not who I am. So I had to accept everything about me and everything about my
Absolutely.
home. I thought in my dreams that I wanted a huge, humongous house. There's a big historical district in Indianapolis and I used to think, oh, I would really, when I grow up, I'm going to live on this street. And then I
Yeah.
realized as I got older, I really wanted a small cabin in the woods.
Yeah. I don't blame
So
you.
you have to accept who you are and what nurtures your own soul. So somebody else may want to, live in a penthouse or in a tall building and overlooking the city. So we all have to nurture who we are and love who we are, but also accept others for who they.
Yeah, exactly. And I think once you start allowing yourself to accept others for who they are, then you can be like, okay, let me look at myself in the mirror. Let me see how I can do that for myself. You know what I mean? People are so quick to be compassionate with other people. But when it's time to be compassionate for you, it's so much more healing. And I love your practices and how you basically slow it down. You know what I mean? You slow your life down to the point where you can embrace, embody, and just appreciate the moment, the minute that you are in. And I think I'm learning how to do that too. I'm implementing that in my life. Where in the morning, oh my goodness, in the morning 5 years ago, as soon as I used to hear an alarm, I would just wake up right away, bounce, go to the bathroom, do my thing, and just continue life, just rush, rush, rush. Now I lay down. I stay laying down. I say a prayer. I do my thing. I just breathe, just focus on breathing, focus on listening on what's going on. And just listening. I just literally focus on listening. I have my eyes open and I'm just listening and just watching and waiting and observing and just taking that moment and be like, okay, what do I have to do today? Okay, nothing much. Let's start the day slow. And I keep it going. So it's like I understand what you mean when you say embrace, because we do. We have to embrace the life that we live because that's what brings us gratitude. You know what I mean? That's what brings us that gratitude to like, okay, I can thank myself for this. I could thank this and thank this. And then before you know it, you have a very good day on your shoulders. And at the end of the night, you can sleep restfully. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Restfully.
When you
So
put
I,
yourself into your day, it one you do tire yourself because you're doing you're a human doing and and trying to accomplish the things that you want to, but you're also very focused then. And you learn
Absolutely.
from that focus that it's all about finding life's lessons. And I'm getting ready to
Yeah.
launch a blog, and I was kind of worried about, do I have enough to say, and would other people like the blog? And I'm in the process of developing it. And I was looking at a photo because I said, find some photos, get a collage of photos that we can use. And I was looking at one, and I saw this stern older woman's face. And I was like, wow, what would this woman be able to tell others about the journey? And the first thing I thought about is when I watched a beauty pageant. I think it was a Miss America pageant. And I hadn't watched one in years, but I did this year. And I was like, wow, you participated in things like that, but you're not that same woman anymore. And
Yeah.
you used to play, the piano more often. And I was like, what I learned from just looking at photos of the years of me is what I can share with others may one day impact them in a way that will help them through their journey to and struggles of resilience, because we all get hit someday with life. And when you get
Absolutely.
hit, it
Absolutely.
requires the ability to rise above it. And as you get seasoned, you realize, wait a minute, that seasoning is what makes the whole stew
Yeah.
worth the world.
Exactly. I mean, have you ever tried
Exactly.
stew with no seasoning, bland, boring, and not worth even trying? You can't even smell it. You know what you smell? Boiled water. That's what you smell. Only boiled water. Nobody likes boiled water. Goodness, no, not even a boiled egg likes the boiled water. So yes, adding that seasoning, that life,
Yes, you have all the salt, the pepper, the paprika, all the things that
everything.
makes excitement. And I think that what we lack in today's society is the ability to see the seasoning in others without poking holes in them.
Absolutely.
Why do you
Absolutely. Those are
always want to
valuable.
poke and say you're not perfect? You need this, you need that, instead of saying, okay, where are we going? Where's our journey now?
Yeah.
Let's walk together. Let's learn from each other. So I really think that we can there's a recipe for all of us to not only improve self, but improve each other.
Exactly. Because once you improve yourself, you end up making a ripple effect where somebody's like, oh, Rhonda did that. I didn't know Rhonda could do that. I would never expect Rhonda to do that. Wow, look at her. Okay, well, that means I can do it too. And it's like, that's the beauty of life. We're living it together. And I'm so glad those are the words that you are leaving us off with today. Because unfortunately, our time is running out. And I feel like we could keep talking about so much. I didn't even get to majority of my questions because the conversation was so well and just so easygoing. And I love
Well,
these conversations.
we will
But
definitely do it again, because you know what? It's when you can talk openly, then what you do is you learn from each other. And
exactly,
learn everything about what helps people be successful, what keeps them grounded, and you know what helps people overcome adversity and stay life balanced.
exactly. So if anybody would like to know more about Rhonda, because obviously if you're listening, how can you not want to know more? She has so much great stuff to offer the world. She has novels, she has journals, she has so many great points so that you can keep on thinking. So I have her photo on my website with her website, just bloop, right there. If you're looking for her, don't worry, don't look too far because you can find her and you can continue on the thought process because this is something that we all need to work on. So with that being said,